All right. Thanks everyone for being on today. Today we're going to look at how Windchill handles change management, and that can be very tricky with depending on how. I mean, every company has a change management process. How efficient it is can vary, and what we're going to look at today is how Windchill handles change management. And hopefully that this can help. You see something here that can help increase your efficiencies regarding this area. So without further ado, I'm going to have Zach Carson from the Virtual Center of Excellence outside of Pittsburgh. He is a solutions consultant and applications engineer for PTC. He's going to take us through the demo and the overview. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. And also, the session is being recorded. So we'll have this uploaded to our YouTube site, and then you get to watch the replay or share it with your friends as you see fit. So we're looking at about 30 minutes today, a little bit of a longer one. But there's a lot of good information to cover. So without further ado, Zach, please take it away, my friend.
Yeah, and we might be able to get this in a little bit less. We'll see. But yeah, basically here with change management, the idea with this is to give you the ability to efficiently manage your enterprise changes in your PLM system. You can use automated workflows. You can use manual workflows, but we want to try to make it as efficient as possible. So if there's areas where you can't automate it, we would highly recommend doing so, at least if you ask me. All right, now getting into this, whenever we talk to companies really across the industry, most of them face pretty similar challenges when it comes to change management. And the first of those is inefficient, slow change processes. And that really stems from the fact that it's very difficult to gather all of the information actually required for a change. I'm sure everyone on this call has gone through this. You're ravaging through all your different folders, trying to grab everything you need, because it's more than just the object that you're changing. I mean, we're talking about what's being changed, why is it being changed, who's going to be involved in the change, what their roles are going to be in the change process. And then on top of that, obtaining input from stakeholders on the change to see if this is a good thing to do moving forward. Not having all of this sorted out really results in a lack of visibility into the change status. So let's say, for example, you have Rob, who's going on a vacation for 2 weeks. If you don't have visibility into the process to see where a change task is stuck, then at that point it's really hard to adjust to it. Your change is kind of stuck in, it's mud in the water at that point. You get your feet stuck in the mud where you're trying to move this thing forward, get it done, make the change happen, but you can't, right? You can't. There's no way to pick up where it left off and actually keep the process moving. So what the outcome of that can be is the slow process, and then also your other systems that are working with Windchill can get out of sync with engineering. And whenever that happens, you're really not taking into account all of the processes required to take this product from digital design to reality. Windchill's solution to these challenges is change management. And it's a way for you to organize your change process and make sure that everybody has the information they need for their role in the change, and then automate the workflows to make it as efficient a process as possible. So whenever we talk about it, let's take a look at some of the capabilities of it. Number one, you're getting configurable workflows. So there's some out-of-the-box workflows that are already set up in Windchill and ready for you to use for changes, just like the one you see here. You're going to have, of course, your own preferred workflow, and you want to tailor this a little bit. So these are totally configurable and scalable to your use case. You're also given the ability to have insight into the change process from start to finish, to see the information that you need to understand exactly what's happening and the progress along the way. So if you take this picture to the right, for example, the red triangle is telling us at the top of that image that a change is in progress. right? So we know just by looking at this at a high level, oh yeah, this thing's being worked on. And then we can see here, if you look in amongst the three sections, and the first one is our issues and variances. So that's our problem report, detailing what we're dealing with. Underneath that, the change that's been requested to address that issue. And then at the bottom is our change notice, where we're actually going through and allocating our resources and making it happen. Now you can have all of these steps. If you want kind of a full change review board, you can have maybe just a change request and change notice. And then if you were to click on the little bubble with the eye inside of it, look into all of the details for any of these. And we'll do that on the demonstration today. But the idea really is to have full traceability into all of the changes throughout your product's life cycle, all the way from the top level assembly down to the smallest components. Within the change process, it's really made up of 4 different change objects, and they're all related to each other, and you can have a couple different processes. So there's a fast track, which is a quick, pretty streamlined process, or you can have the full-on change review board. And if you go through a full-on change review board, you're going to really start with the problem report, right? You put those in Windchill, maybe QA or someone identifies a problem, or a manufacturer assembler identifies a problem whenever they're putting putting something together, and they document that, or give it to a manager, go to a manager, report it, they document it. But that's just identifying the problem. Below that, there's also a deviation or waiver, which is optional. So that's a temporary change to a process or a product. So you're not necessarily saying there's a problem, but you're saying you want to make a change or an exception for something. Next is the change request, where you're now officially requesting a change and gathering information on what resources you would need to complete that change. But at this point, still no resources have officially been allocated. You really just planned it out. In the change notice, we are committing people and resources to make it happen. Whenever you go through and you execute all the tasks, you make the change happen, as soon as you finish it, you work back, and then you go in and you close out the change request. And if you had any problem reports, you would close that out as well. It's just saying that you've addressed those problems, and you hear the term closing the loop. That's what we're doing. That's really what goes into the change process at a very high level. So we'll go ahead and get into a demonstration. We'll walk through this, and that way you'll be able to see actually in Windchill what this whole thing looks like. All right, so for this, we are going to be going through a relatively simple change management process from start to finish. And for it, I'm going to be working on the Synergy Pro Car assembly. You might have seen this before if you've been on these webinars with me in the past. And we have a specific component in here that actually already has a change out against it. It's the brake assembly. So we're going to just go ahead and open that up, and we can get started on this thing. So if you're new to Windchill, this brake assembly is a WT part. If you're unfamiliar with WT parts, it's a Windchill technology part, and it's essentially a placeholder for an object in a structure that allows you to contain all of the data and information pertaining to that part. So the easiest way to think of it is just as a bucket that contains all the data and info for that, whether it's CAD, documents, drawings, user manuals, whatever, is all going to be contained within that WT part, and you have traceability and associativity between the objects that describe that part. So for this one, the brake assembly, you can see by the icon at the top, we already have a change that's underway for this, but we haven't actually gone through and executed any of the tasks yet. So that's what we're going to do here, here and now from this page. Now, as soon as we open up the part and I go to the Changes tab, this gives me a one-stop shop for everything pertaining to this change. Now, we're not diving into details yet, but from this tab, I can access my problem report, my change request, and my change notices before and after the change happens. So this is the one-stop shop for any change happening to my brake assembly or any other part that I'm looking at. The first section, issues and variances, like I said, that's the problem report. So we'll start by taking a look at that. And as soon as you open it up, different tabs here outlining all of the information for this problem report, my details in terms of who made it, any attachments, if you have maybe managers documenting a problem that an assembler found whenever they went to build something. They took a picture of it, they brought it into Windchill just to provide a visual representation of the issue and make sure that everyone's on the same page. You could maybe use that as an attachment. In our case, what we used as an attachment is actually a Creo view representation. So if you're new to Windchill, Creo view is a universal viewer. You get a free version of it with Windchill. The whole idea with this is collaboration. You can open up any type of information you have in Windchill using Creo view, PDFs, CAD from different CAD systems, CAD drawings from different CAD systems, ECAD from other systems. Bring it into Creo view, and now you can add in comments and mark it up and take measurements and on everything. You don't actually have to have licenses to the native tool that it was authored in. In this case, we are originally documenting our problem using Creo view. So someone came in here, maybe it was an inspector, and while inspecting something, he noticed, you know what? Whenever we're actually running tests on this brake disc gets extremely hot while braking in high speed. So they come in Creo view, he saves this to Windchill, and now everyone has visibility into the original problem that is initiating this change. The other information in here is also gathering the resources to affected objects. And basically, what's going to be affected by this change? It impacts our brake disc WT part, which is a model from SolidWorks in this case, and it's part of the brake disc assembly. You can see those 3 items there at the bottom under the affected objects category. I can also have affected end items. So the front wheel assembly is a sellable good that I have, which is affected by this change. All right. Now from here, I can also navigate my way into the associated process objects or associated reference objects. And this is basically your change request and your change notice. So we already have looked at the problem report. We'll go ahead and just dive into the change request. And if you remember, this is really where we are going to get all of our information for this change. See what's going to be impacted by the change, everything that's affected by the change, the resources that are going to go into it. So here, since this is now a different step in my workflow, I have my problem report, then I have my change request. I actually am saying, okay, not just what the problem is, but what are we going to do to fix the problem? So there's another visual representation that was made using Creo view. And if I open that up, then I can see maybe what the engineering manager is saying needs to happen to address that change, right? We've looked at the problem report. Yeah, this is a real issue. So let's go ahead and redesign the brake disc to bring the heat generation down and make it, operate within our temperature thresholds. And from here, I have full visibility into everything that's going to be affected by this change. And that includes all of our WT parts and the files inside of those WT parts. So most of these, I have 2 Creo assemblies. I have a SolidWorks assembly and a SolidWorks part, and then also MathCAD worksheet, which is my heat flow calculation. So those are all going to be impacted by this change. And it's Windchill's gathering that information for you, so you don't have to worry about manually having to gather the information and potentially missing something. Okay. I do see we have a question, so let me read through this real quick. That's a good question. Justin asked, does that annotation send a notification to anyone, or is it just seen when you open the assembly in Windchill? Both. It can send a notification. So if it's part of your workflow, that whenever a Creo view annotation is saved to Windchill, then if there's users who are going to be part of that workflow for a change or for whenever something is uploaded to Windchill, then yeah, they could get a notification that so-and-so uploaded an annotation in relation to this object. So yes, you can have a notification. And it could be sent via email or you could just, whenever you log into Windchill, you could have a little bell at the top of your screen that says that you have a notification with a little red bubble icon on it. It says how many notifications you have. Good question. Now that we've taken a look at our change request, let's go into the change notice here. And this is really where the change is going to happen. So there's some different information in the change notice. I have a process tab and an implementation tab that are going to actually outline everything that needs to be done and who's going to be doing it. So if I wanted to look at my actual workflow for the change, this is going to be more of like a admin probably, or a manager would see this. Not everybody would see this, but this is what a sample workflow might look like. And that's configurable. It's a lot of like drag and drop, putting in different objects for deliverables, or where you want to review, or manual intervention, saying where you want it to be automated. And then if you also within this change notice have your team and all of the tasks that go into it. So it can be broken up into different phases like we have here. For this change, the implementation plan consists of 3 separate steps. And you can see from this one screen where each of those things stand. So updating the CAD model, that's already done. You see the state is resolved. Republish the representation of the drawing, that's already done. And then updating the bill of material of the brake assembly is one that hasn't been completed yet. Even though these are already completed, the first 2 steps, we're still going to jump into them and take a look at them. All right, so updating the CAD model is a change task. Whenever I open the task, just like anything else I'm doing in Windchill, I have full visibility into it, and I can see all of the affected WT parts and then the resulting WT parts. And the difference between those two, the affected objects table is showing you before the change what's being impacted. The resulting objects are the new versions after the change has been made. So if I wanted to come in here and start to review these from a comparison report, it would show me the difference in versions between them. You can also look at additional information here. If it was a part of a WT part and there's multiple things that are going to be affected, I could see that as well in there. But in that case, it's just the CAD. Right. So let's say in this case, I want to open up the resulting objects and just see how my model has changed. If I were to open up in Creo Parametric, I can see here versus the visualization that we looked at before. Well, there's my holes. So someone came in here, they drilled holes or modeled holes in the brake disc to hopefully dissipate some of that heat. But it's very, very easily visualized because of the representations that we're using in Windchill. So for everybody in Windchill who's working and just wants a quick representation of the object, the visualizations work wonders for them, especially if you're someone who is not maybe working as closely with the CAD. So you don't necessarily know every nook and cranny of the model. The visualization can go a long way. Now, a big part of this is the fact that you have workflows assigning tasks. That's where you get a lot of the value out of this, out of change management in Windchill. So part of that is me as a personal user getting assigned tasks that I need to complete as part of those workflows. Whenever I come to my home screen, I have a category for my tasks right front and center. So even if Rob was the predecessor on this workflow and he did the previous task, as soon as Rob completed his task last night, whenever I was at home eating dinner, as soon as I come in to the office in the morning and I log into Windchill, I can see in my on my home screen, I have a task assigned to me that I have to complete, which is to update the bill of materials of the brake assembly. Now, right from here, what I can do is accept that task, and I like to always open the task assistant because it just leaves that little window there and gives me a hyperlink to the task, and also just like kind of keeps me on track of what I'm doing, keeps me on task. So I'll use that to open up my change task and go into that bill of materials and start to update this thing. So right away you can see, all right, my brake assembly here, I'm looking at the old version of this. There's no holes around the brake disc in the visualization. And there's that little triangle at the top telling me a change is underway. So I'm going to go ahead, and since this is actually on my manufacturing bill of materials, I'm going to open up the manufacturing associative part structure browser, and the change originally was made to my engineering BOM. That's already been completed. I need to now push the changes to my manufacturing BOM as well, so that the manufacturers who go in and look at that bill of materials that contains the information specific to them, that's going to be updated too. So all I'm going to do here, Windchill makes it really easy to push the changes between them and update my MBOM. So I can highlight the part that's changed on both sides. And all I'm going to say is I'm going to highlight the parts that I need, and I'm going to update to current upstream equivalent. And that's going to take anything out of date between those two versions and update them to match. Right, so really easy to do. And now you can see in the visualization, clearly it updated the model for me, and I can go ahead and check this thing in.
Hey, Zach,
Yes.
we have another question. It says, if the annotation specified for the disk to be changed, but the center part is assembled too, also needs adjustment, will Windchill identify those parts as changed? Or does the engineer need to identify those with an annotation?
If you let me read that again. Yeah, so that's a good question. It will identify that the center part would be impacted by that change. However, that still is, it's going to be on the designer, because Windchill can't tell you exactly how it needs to be changed. So your team maybe would plan this, or you would go, if it's solely on the designer, they would have to go into their CAD system and update it to make it work. But yeah, Windchill would be able to say, if those two parts are related, then you need to address or at least evaluate that centerpiece to see if it's going to be affected. And you can do with CreoView, let's say, for example, you could do an interference analysis to see if the brake disc changing really does interfere with that golden center part. Okay, let me read this. Yes, yes. Windchill will have a list of all of the components changed during the change process. Absolutely. Sorry for the confusion there on my part.
No worries, Zach. You do a good job, buddy.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and we'll wrap this thing up here. So
Oh, wait, we got
one of the
another one that
last.
just popped in.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if this is a question or a statement. They would have to be added as affected objects in order for the object state to be updated to allow modifications, depending on how your system is set up.
Yep, that's correct. What I will say is if you have a structure of WT parts and you're modifying objects within WT parts, then Windchill will also automatically identify the affected objects via the structured WT parts that you have. So good clarification, Michael. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so for this, we'll just go ahead and complete this task. I'll add a little comment here just so everyone knows what I'm changing in here, what I did. Say the BOM has been updated. And what happens now is, since this is an automated workflow, as soon as I complete my task, now it's going to assign a new task to whoever's next in the workflow. So I logged in as a different user. Now I'm logged in as Pat. Pat has his own task that he actually needs to go in and complete, which is just to review the change notice. So I could say, great job, everyone. You made a good change. Let's go ahead and release this thing. All right. And now what I want to do is just come back into this change and finalize this thing. So I want to review or audit the change notice. So here's your list of everything that's been changed, right? All of the WT parts and the affected objects within those WT parts. And everything there is kind of no surprises. So we'll say that looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is just come back into this part. We'll click the go to the latest icon at the top. And what I need to do is, now that the change has been made, I have my new version and everything, I just need to come to my change notice and say when I want this change to officially be effective. This gives you the ability to start planning ahead, right? You can come in here and I need to modify the effectivity date. So I can say, maybe this is a change that we've been planning for a while, we've executed and everything, but I don't want everybody in the system to be able to see this change until December 5th. You can set effectivity dates like that to plan ahead so that you can stay on track and be more strategic about your changes, I'll say. So I'm just going to go through and put a date for each one of these. And then once we set the dates, the last part that we'll have to identify is the life cycle state. So everything at this point is in work. I'm just going to grab everything and set the state to released as soon as it hits that effectivity date. All right. And then at this point, go ahead and set my effectivity date. Everything looks good. So we will go ahead and complete this, and that will finalize my change. So just to show you what we're looking at here. Yep.
Zach, real quick. So can the effectivity table have sequence or dependencies?
Yes, you can have sequences so that you cannot be doing task 2 until you have completed task 1, for example. And here I just want to show you, this is now our officially released B.1 version. We have no change icon at the top of our screen anymore because this is the effective version and state that everyone is going to be viewing. And all that I'm going to be doing now is showing you, if I were to line up both of these side by side, the initial configuration and the current configuration, Windchill will identify the differences between the two. So really, there's some intelligence built into this, and it makes your workflows more streamlined, automated as much as you possibly can, and then helps you to be more efficient. Okay, so there's just now that we've gone through that, a couple things that I want to share with you just to summarize the benefits this can provide to you. Number one, with all of your data residing in one PLM system, it enables you to react more quickly to pressures that your company faces. Using the workflow templates that we already have that you can configure, it's going to automate a lot of the processes for you, help you solve your problems and implement changes a little bit faster. It also makes the whole process more efficient. Everybody that's involved with changes knows exactly what their role is in the change process, and you have all the tools to execute it. And on top of that, everybody that's going to be involved has full visibility into each and every step of that change process, and then can make more informed decisions on future changes. And then lastly here, because of the increased visibility and full digital traceability, everybody's working together to collaborate and make the most informed decisions that are going to, as a result, increase your product quality. That's what I had planned to go through for an overview of Windchill change management. And I'm looking at the chat now, and I do see that we have a couple more questions. So before we close this down, we'll go ahead and address these. Michael, does the effectivity date hold the state change till the set date? Yes, you can set that date. It will, even though you're completing your tasks, not propagate that change across the system, including the state, until that date comes. All right. We have no other questions in there. So I think we can wrap it up, I guess.
We can wrap it up. Awesome. Good questions. Thank you. Thank you for participating. We appreciate it. I also appreciate the compliments that I get from our audience stating that they find our webinars, whether it's for Creo, whether it's for Windchill, very helpful, very useful. Because what we want to do is we want to help educate people, whether you're a PTC customer currently, a 3HTI customer currently, or if you're trying to figure out what PLM is or what exactly is the difference between Creo and SolidWorks. We want to be able to provide, educate people and provide information that's going to be helpful to help your business improve, to make products, to get them to market faster, to make them less expensive, to use less materials, to improve the quality, everything across the board. So if you have any questions or want to see a specific a specific demo on something within Windchill or even within Creo, you can respond to the emails that I send out. Or you could call us, you can call me directly at 610-590-1089. Or you could call 3HTI at 866-624-3484. So like I said, this recording is going to be listed. Another question just came in. We do have a webinar recording on Project Link. So Michael, I will be sure to send you a link to that recording. I'm gonna write that down, Project Link. I'm going to send you a link to that recording on our YouTube page so that you can view the webinar Project Link, and we're more than happy to assist you with any questions or any detail that you need. So thanks everybody for being on today. We appreciate it. Zach is awesome. Great job. As awesome, Zach. Great job. And Michael, I will respond to your last question as far as what you just sent me in the chat. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.